it says, this is the confidence we have approaching God, that we ask anything according to his will, he hears us. In verse 15 it says, and if we know that we have what we asked of him. 1 Peter chapter 3 verse 12 says, for the eyes of the Lord are on the righteous, and his ears are attentive to their prayer. And Jeremiah 29 verses 12 through 13, you will call me and come and pray to me, and I will listen to you. You will seek me and find me when you seek me with all of your heart. I've already talked about, the way the growth that I've had to go through following Christ. And one of the things I talked about was getting control over this. The tongue can totally uproot everything that God has planned and to bless you with. And the way I grew up was to expect the worst. That way, when the worst came, I wouldn't be as disappointed. This is what I was taught. My mom would say this, and I've said before, I would have this uncanny bad luck that would happen to me. And then I would literally reinforce it by saying, this always happens to me. That would always be the thing I would say. This always happens to me. Or if it wasn't for my bad luck, I would have no luck at all, I was saying once in another sermon. And that's kind of how I would be. And I had this whole and even when I was born again, I had to work through that. And it probably wasn't until 2015 where suddenly I was being faced with this nonsense that was coming out of my mouth. And that I had to be really standing firm on what God had said, what I know he promised me. And that's the thing with God. Whatever he promises, he's going to fulfill. And you may not always see where he's working, but you have to trust that he is working on your behalf. He loves, and he turns all evil for good for those who love and serve him. And if you look in the book of Ruth, you see this whole story, and not once is God mentioned. But all these little serendipitous moments throughout that story show God's hand involved in the whole thing. And that's what this testimony is. It is a testimony that was all the way from 2006. And when I first God blessed me with Christine, she would talk to me about how hard it was at work and all these things. And I would say, at the time, I was starting to learn, I'm going to ask for God and believe what God is going to give me. And I was on that beginning learning. And so I said, well, why don't you ask for the job that you want? And she set the standards of what she wanted. And it was basically the perfect job, is what you would say. And we'd have people who are not saved and people who are saved who would say, good luck finding the perfect job. And I just stood firm and I said to Christine, no, believe in it. God doesn't just give junk. He gives the best things for you. Sometimes it takes time. God doesn't go A, B, C, D, E, F, G. He goes A, G, Z, then goes back to C. He does it, he's outside of time. So our time frames don't match with his time frames. But trust, faith, that's the key. And that's what will send you on a path that was sent purely by God, and then he gets all the glory. And that's what I want, not only for you to have hope if you're having issues with your jobs, or you're waiting for something, whatever it is that you've been praying for. And if you heard from God, and you know that God had given you a word, you hold on to that word, whatever it is, and believe in it. And you just keep moving forward no matter what. Wait, Isaiah 51 verse 5 says, wait expectantly. And the word wait in here is damam in Hebrew, and it means to wait and be still, to be quiet and wait and believe. So I bring my wife up, and we'll just tell this story, how it started, and here you go.
Hi.
Good morning.
Bear with me, I'm a little nervous.
Fine.
all started when the company, we worked in the same department, so we couldn't work in the same department if we were married. So it all started when I was transferred to Oakland. I was in Lodi, I went to Oakland, and I was still working for the same department, but a different system. So then I went over to what was the business department, and there was one girl that I worked with, always competing with me and my boss. But I would always still be that hard worker. I was always trying to help others. Everyone seemed to like me. And then time went by, I was still there, and there was no future there for me. So then there was a job that came up that people kept saying, you should go for it, you should go for it. It was a dispatch supervisor job. And I was like petrified. I was like, I can't be a supervisor. So we went, we prayed on it and prayed. And then it took a little time, then God gave me the job. So it was a supervisor job. And then after a while, it just started getting, people weren't really respecting me. People were talking behind my back. Same old thing that seemed to follow me every time. Every job I had, there was always someone that seemed like they were against me. Just because I was doing what I was supposed to do. Just to help others. That's me. If you know me, that's who I am. So anyway, then the company got bought out by Altice. You probably all have Optimum. And things were getting bad. People were getting laid off left and right. And then I had the opportunity to volunteer to get laid off, which they had the VSP program. So I went to Jamie, what should I do? What should I do? So we prayed and we prayed. We fasted too as well. But I felt it was God's will. Hold on, I need my glasses. It was God's will. So he tied into the original prayer that we were originally praying for.
And so at the same time, I've been slowly moving to full-time ministry. And I had, we used to, remember how we had the Day to Pray for the Peace of Jerusalem, we used to do a whole conference. And it was on a Sunday where I was standing right there and I had this incredible moment of God. I literally was lifted, it sounds crazy, but I was lifted out of my body. And I didn't want it to end. I had this feeling of like complete love around me. And then I heard God say, what is your choice? And I knew what he meant. Are you going to, I want you full-time ministry is what he was asking me. And I finally, and I had been fighting it because, every time I always try to avoid anything to do with leadership. Anybody would say, oh, you're a leader, or you're a leader. I would, no, I'm not. And that was really because of my lack of self-esteem. I grew up, belittled, told I was stupid, all these things. And so that really was what was causing me not to take on this, even though I can feel that's what God wanted. And I said yes. And the minute I said yes, I see this flip book of time go where all these little instances from the time I was little all the way up, it was like it happened in an instant, showing me all these things that led up to this moment here in the church. And I said yes. The very next Monday, I would come in and clean up, and after the conference, and I told Pastor this, and that's when Pastor asked me to do the associate pastor, which was a lot of tears because, I love Pastor Sal, and once again, that self-esteem issue. What if I fail? What if I screw this up? And I didn't want to take it on. At the time, I was still working for Cablevision. I made about $75,000 a year. And during this time, I knew I was supposed to leave, but I wouldn't leave. And then soon after, I was diagnosed with the heart situation. So now I need insurance, health insurance. When the time came where Christine had this job and we prayed, well, I was still working, so I had the health insurance. And on that prayer that we prayed in 2006 for the perfect job, we said, well, this must be the time. Because we didn't feel it was going to be at Cablevision. It was going to be outside of Cablevision. I just had that sense, and I said, yes, you should leave. Even though that she had part of that. Cablevision had really good insurance. And so we really stepped out in faith. And you can take it from here.
Okay, this is back in February 2017. So I worked for a company called Back to the Future. It was a recycling company. And the manager there was like bipolar. Like Mondays I would come in, there was no heat in the building. Company had no benefits. Everyone was always on eggshells when the boss was around. It was like a blame game to avoid being, she would publicly humiliate people in front of everyone else. So I was there about a year. Then a friend referred me to another job called RSM Maintenance, which was, it sounded really great, like a good job, exactly what my experience, dispatch, customer service. But the people there were just as worse as Cablevision. People were always pointing fingers. They train you to a certain degree, and then they expect you to kind of learn things on your own. I got yelled at times for asking questions. Oh, you should know this. Made me feel like I was, didn't know what I was doing. And I was still always trying to go out of my way to help people, even though people were constantly at me. So I always felt like the outsider on the team. They were always moving people around. I never felt appreciated. It was chaotic work environment, and the owners really didn't know what was going on. So anyway, so then we went to Blue Mountain in July 2019.
And so while she's going through these jobs, I get laid off. God told me to leave. And I remember Pastor Linda literally said, when are you leaving? When are you leaving that job? And I'm like, soon. I always just kind of like push it aside, and because I didn't have the faith to jump. That's really what it was. I'm going to be honest. $75,000 a year. She doesn't have the insurance, and all of a sudden I break my foot or my ankle on my birthday, and 4 weeks after I break my ankle, I get a phone call and they let me go. Now there's no insurance. And when I go to get one of my medications, Entresto, they said it's $600 for the bottle. But God provided, because all of a sudden I go to pastor telling her, and then she found a way where Anthony was able to get samples, which carried me through. But meanwhile, while I was off of it for the time, my health was waning. So all this pressure is now on her to find a job that has insurance. And so here we are. I start fasting. That's when I did the 40-day fast. I was fasting constantly for God's will. I was believing God had a purpose. He said I was supposed to do ministry. Here I am. I'm finally in full-time ministry, diagnosed with heart issues, needing insurance. It didn't make sense to me. Well, God, you said. And that's the thing. I had to hold on and say, God said this. And so we went to Blue Mountain, which is like we love Blue Mountain. And we're praying for a woman for her job. And so I'll just leave it and bring it back to Christine.
Okay, so she asked us, well, what can I pray for you? And Jamie said, for Christine for a new job. So she prays, go back to work the next day, work a full day, I get laid off. Literally like the next day. And at first I was like devastated, oh my gosh, I got laid off, what am I gonna do? Health benefits, I finally get the benefits, and then, it's taken away again. But then I realized, I'm like, wait a minute, we just prayed about this. And I was like, okay, God, you got a plan. I knew God had something, so that kept me calm. So then, I was discouraged. It just didn't make sense. I'm like, what's going on? So let me get back to you.
Yeah.
Health issues.
And so, my health issues were going back and forth. She was watching it happen. I was just believing in God, and that's all I would stand on. And the only way I could describe it is when it's not moving in my favor health-wise, it feels like I'm walking through like thick water. That's the only way. Every move I make is tiring. You know, just walking up steps, lose my breath. I can't concentrate. It's really, really hard. And, you know, we kind of embraced Psalm 31, verses 14 through 15, but I'm trusting you, O Lord, saying, you are my God, my future is in your hands. And we just believed that God has this, even though everything looked like he didn't. But that's the thing, you have to believe. Just like in the book of Ruth, you never see him or hear him or mentioned, but he is working throughout the whole story. And that's the thing, to trust in him, to know he's going to take care of this. So simultaneously, I get the boot from my job because I was supposed to leave, so God took care of that. As soon as we'd say that prayer with that woman, she gets booted and she's never been laid off. So the psychological effect of that, and the fact that, what are we going to do for insurance again? How many times can we get this in Tresto? And what's amazing is God kept providing that in Tresto throughout the whole time. So.
Okay. All right. Let's see. So I went on several interviews, applied for all kinds of jobs, and then I get a call about this job at the Picatinny base as a dispatcher. Perfect job. Good money, good benefits. It's for heating and cooling all the buildings on the base. So, well, actually before that, I did have an interview for a job for a hearing aid company, which was good. I went for 2 interviews. It was right in Denville. Pay was okay. They had benefits, but I didn't get the job. So then I get this call in December for a Picatinny base, and they saw my name on one of those like LinkedIn or one of those. Anyways, and it sounded like the perfect job. I mean, the money was incredible. I couldn't believe how much money it was. And then, so I went on the interview. Went great. I thought I had the job. They said they will let you know right before Christmas. So we were all excited. This will be our Christmas present. Let's see. Sorry. So then right before Christmas, I get no call. But everyone told me, Jamie, Pastor Linda, Dorothy, even Teresa had prayed for me. They said, this is your job. You got this. You got this. So then we didn't hear before Christmas. Then after Christmas, I get a call. I didn't get a job. So I'm all like, what? Disappointed. Proverbs 16:9. Within your heart, you can make plans for the future, but the Lord chooses the steps you take to get there. So then I'm trying not to lose hope. I'm remembering what we prayed for. I just kept focusing on God. I'm trusting in you, God. I know you have a plan. So then after I didn't get that job, I was referred to another job for a garage door company. And I'm getting very close to my unemployment running out. So I go for the interview. They love me. The Friday, my last day of my unemployment, they hired me. They said, when can you start? I'm like, how about Monday? So Monday I started. But the only thing about that, the pay was $17 an hour, which really isn't that good for, what we're going through. They had some benefits. But then once we got our first paycheck, I was just like, how are we going to do this? So I went to Jamie and I said, you're going to have to go back to work. What should we do? So then Jamie, your turn.
So here I am. I know I was called to full-time ministry. I know this is what I was supposed to do. And I was caught on a crossroads. I knew that I needed insurance. And the interesting, and I felt it, that the Picatinny job was hers. It paid as much as she made in Cablevision, which took her 30 years to get to. She worked there for 30 years. It took her to get to that pay scale. It was 15 minutes away. It was a safe location. You can't get any more safe than an army base. And here she confronts me and says, $17 an hour, that's without taxes and without the benefits, and the benefits were awful at this place. I was going to pay through the nose for all these medications I have to take for the heart. So when I get, she talks to me that day, and then the next day I come to church, and I'm studying, and I'm starting to worry. And I just say, I rebuke this in Jesus' name. I'm not going to be in fear. You said what you said, God, and I know you have plans for us. I know that you're not going to just leave us, on the side of the road. So I just came in the sanctuary. I was working really late that night. I sometimes stay till late. So it was 9 p.m. and I stood right before this altar. And I cried out and I said, God, you own everything. And without you, I am nothing and have nothing. So I'm literally calling it out. I need money, God. So I just went straight for it. I need money. I went boldly before the throne room. That's what it says we can do. You can go boldly before God. And I said, God, I'm just asking you. I know you're going to do this. I don't know how you're going to do this. But I don't care how you do it. I just know you're going to do it. So I'm asking you, as a son, please do this for us.
Okay. Sorry. So that was a Wednesday night. So the next morning, which is a Thursday, I had Thursdays off. That's another thing about the job. My days off are Thursdays and Saturdays, so I had to work. Anyway, so next morning, I get up about 8:30, and I see I have a missed call. So then I see it was the guy Michael I was working with to get me the job for Picatinny. So I was like, oh wow, awesome, Michael called. I wonder what's going on. So I listened to the message, and he said, call me as soon as you can. I have good news. I'm like, well, okay. So I call him up. He said, all right, well, the girl that they hired didn't work out. We want to hire you. So I'm like, oh my God, you're kidding me. Like, I was just like, and then he tells me it's actually $5 more than the original pay, because they have like a health and welfare thing. So I'm like, well, let me just talk to my husband. I'll call you back within the hour. So Jamie wakes up. I'm like, Jamie, you'll never guess who called. So I tell him what happened. So we prayed. And then I called Michael right back and said, yes, I'll definitely take it. So I got the job. I mean, it was just, I just couldn't believe it. So the next morning, I actually had to go into the other place and let them know, sorry, I can't stay, like I have to say. And she knew about, the woman I was working with, we got close very quickly, really nice woman. I felt really bad, actually, but I told her, I'm like, I really can't afford to work here unless you could do something for me. But anyway, so she's like, well, I'm going to have to let you go today because I was in training. There's no need for me to stay around. But it actually worked out because I had to do all this paperwork for Picatinny. I had to go get a drug test, which I never had to do before. They had to do my background check and all that fun stuff. So then, I get the job, so I start the following week. And then COVID hits. About a month after I even started there. So I worked from home for 3 months. Thank goodness, thank God. Because I don't know what I would have done if I was stuck home and not being able to go see my family. Because you know how I love my family and my church as well, coming to church. So then when I came back to the office in June, 2 other people still stayed home. So I was kind of doing the job of like 2 to 3 people that didn't come back to the office because of COVID. So not only was I doing other people's work, but it was like dispatching from working for 130 techs down to like 15 plus techs. So that is the perfect job for me because it was something I could do with my eyes closed almost because I've done it for
Bridgeport. I graduated from Shelton High. He lives in Shelton. It was a pastor and 2 evangelists and a prophet. And this prophet God told me to go get prayed by him. And what was the thing that they said? Don't worry for anything. Rest. You take too much on that you really shouldn't. Just let me be God. Amazing. So these full circle moments, this is what God does. But He's gonna let you wait. He's gonna bring you through. And He might not go from A, B, C. We think that way. That's the way, because we're in time. So, one day begats another day. Time means nothing to God. But we mean everything to Him. And He's looking, in Philippians chapter 4, verse 6 through 7, don't worry about anything. Instead, pray about everything. Tell God what you need and thank Him for all He has done. Then you will experience God's peace. In Jeremiah 29:11, for I know the plans I have you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you, not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future. And that's this testimony. This testimony not only taught me in the midst of it, because, like I said, I was too scared to even leave my job. Like, how do you leave a job that pays that much money? It took me 18 years to get there, and to a fraction of what I would be making. How is this going to work? And then when she loses her job, how is this going to work? Without insurance, Entresto's $600 a bottle. How does it work? God works. God works on behalf of us. God will work on behalf of you. So if you are wondering when that prayer is going to be answered, don't be worried about the when. Just don't even worry. You just stay steadfast and believe in what He says and what He's going to do. And believe me, when you receive it, it is well worth the wait, because you could see, and you see this story, how it just, 1 minute it's up, 1 minute it's down. I felt like I was in that movie Rudy, It's like he kept trying and failing. But it's in the failure that brings character, brings patience, and bolsters your faith. And my faith is in a whole nother level now. That's why I don't even hesitate when I see something of need. I go right to God now. And I believe, and if He doesn't give me exactly what I want, remember, it's according to His will, not yours. Why? Because He sees everything. He knows the beginning and the end. He's the Alpha and the Omega. He doesn't follow linear time like we do. He is outside of time. He sees the beginning of your life and the end of it. And I used to make a joke with one of my old guitarists from my band, and he actually said to me, the way you describe God, he says, and I don't know if you know this, I'm dating myself with this, it's like He's Bob Ross, the painter. And the reason why he said that is because even if we screw things up or do things wrong, it's just happy little accidents. Like, God sees our painting and can take a mess that we make on our painting and turn it into a beautiful tree, turn it into a beautiful river. He has this way. And this came from a guy that's not even saved. And I thought that was funny. And that's what we always talk about. Like, I always bring up the Bob Ross thing. But just let Christine just finish it off about how you feel now, like, over trusting God.
How do I feel? I can't even find the right words. I mean, God is so good. I mean, it's, I don't want to get emotional, but just have faith. Like, just be patient. It's hard. Believe me. I mean, there were days I woke up and I was like, okay, what's today going to bring? Is today the day? But I just kept going. And I had the support from all of you. And thank you all for praying for me, for my biggest supporter, Jamie. And Pastor Linda, thank you. I mean, you guys, just be thankful for each day. And wake up each day with just a positive attitude. Like, God is good. There's got to be some, even when there are some things that aren't good going on in your life, just think of the good things. Sometimes we just look at the bad. Like, we wake up and we're like, oh, it's Thursday, or, like Mondays. oh, it's Monday, but just give him the glory. There's got to be something. Your family, your kids, just give God the glory. And I give God the glory. And I love you, Jamie.
So, that's the thing. We're all going to have challenges. Here I go in a full-time ministry and I find out I have a terminal heart condition. What do? Give up? No, because I'm still alive. And each day the sun rises is another day of opportunity. It's another day God can do something incredible in your life, and that will shine and show others how God is working in your life. If He's working in your life, how great of a testimony that you have when you try to share people about God's goodness, about God's love. I can emphatically say without any hesitation how good God is. He is there. Even though He may not seem He's there. Even though you can't see Him, I'm telling you He's there. And He loves you. And He wants to do the best for you. But it's according to His will. And when you submit to His will, even though the timeline might not line up with your timeline, even if there's going to be hills and valleys, and I assure you, Satan is going to try to steal that away from you. Say that wasn't promised. That God is a liar. That's what he's going to try to do. And you do not listen to that voice. You listen to the promises. He will send people to validate. That's why I knew that job was hers. Pastor Linda, Teresa, Dorothy. I felt it deep inside that this was her job. So I was just as disappointed when it didn't happen. But I still had to believe God, it was going to work. God was going to do something. If it wasn't that job, it would be better than that job. But it was still that job, it turned out. And it came, and first it wasn't fully her job, right? It's a temp. But at that point, I was solid. Like, this is your job. Temp or no temp, this is your job. Because the way it came back, after I went before Him in front of this altar, the very next morning, it's amazing to me. So if you bow your heads, I just want to pray for everybody who may be struggling with things, or there's a promise that maybe God gave in your heart. Maybe you're having issues at your job. Well, I'm going to believe for you, and I think you should believe for yourself, and I think you should allow God to be God. Lord God, I just pray over each and every person here, Lord. Lord, you know their needs. You know exactly what they've been promised, what they've been praying for. Whether it be a husband, God, or a wife. Whether it be for a job. If somebody is going through a job that just, it's turmoil and rough every single day. Lord, I just pray that you have a perfect job for that person as well. Lord, I pray that you will continually watch over every single individual in this church. I pray for protection over every single person in this church. And Lord, most of all, I pray for a new birth of faith in every single person here. A new, stronger sense of your goodness and total trust in you, God. In this time of uncertainty, in this time of storms and political and social unrest, God, there's one thing that's constant, and it is you. You are love everlasting. You have mercy that is beyond anything we can understand. So I pray that mercy over every single person here. I pray for that faith to continually grow. I pray for a supernatural move in every person here that will bring them into another whole mature spiritual level, Lord. I pray that when people see each person in this church, that they are going to know that God is in their life. And they're going to want it as well. Lord, I pray that you put in the right words and guard their tongues. Let them not dig up their blessing before they receive it. Let them not have to stay too long in the wilderness. That it will not be a 40-day wait or 40-year wait, Lord, but it will be only a short period of time, Lord. And if it is longer, God, I pray that you give them the resolve. You show them that you are still there. That you, in the end, will bring a testimony that will be also shared at this altar, God. And we just honor you and thank you. And I just, again, pray total blessing over every single member here. May the Lord bless you and keep you. Lord, make his face shine upon you. Be gracious to you. May the Lord turn his face towards you and give you peace. God bless you.